Hi there and welcome to episode 11, I can't believe we've come this far, of my groundbreaking show, What Am I Listening To and Why? Thank you so much to everybody for watching it and commenting and all the nice things you're saying about it. It's now going at about 1,200 listens per show, which is on Facebook. It's absolutely amazing, and again, I can't thank you enough for that. Keep it up. Always keep sharing. It's worth your while, because if we do the same with this video, there will be bonus content, and I know you all want your tasty bonus content. The premise is always the same. The last 6 records have been on my turntable. I will pull them up, put them on again, and talk about each one for about 2 minutes. Where are we going from here? Right there. The first record today is Public Image Limited. First issue. Was playing this last night. I haven't played it for years, but I gave it a listen last night. It really is quite an amazing record for good and bad. John Lydon, out of the Sex Pistols, now had to go and do something absolutely amazing. And he kind of, he did. The first single from that was Public Image, which just, it blew everyone away. And I remember as a child, as a small child, it blew me away as well. And we all thought, oh my God, Public Image are just going to be the most powerful, incredible thing. And then we all bought the album, first issue, and it looked amazing, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the album isn't amazing. John Lydon, Jah Wobble, Keith Levine, who'd been booted out of the Clash. Let's say about that a bit. But it was, the album for young punk rock chappies like me was disappointing, because I don't think we had the kind of brain, most of us didn't have the kind of brain to be able to understand what was really happening here. The single was amazing, and the rest of it was a bit, it was quite painful, and it was artistically, it was beyond me. And it's only in later life that I've really sort of got into it. Also, sound-wise, half of it is really well recorded, and the other half of it is a bit fucking shit. I think apparently they ran out of money, and it was all a bit rushed to get the thing out, and so the mixes on 2 or 3 of the tracks are really horrible. It's such a shame. John Lydon has become, to me, the world's greatest rock and roll letdown of all time. He's now into Donald Trump and thinking that that's funny and cool. It actually isn't. It makes you look like an absolute tit. But there you go. Some people, you just can't tell some people. Public Image, first issue. I'm going to give it a 7. Fair enough. Record number 2 is a whole different kettle of fish. It's a sort of, I'd say a silly fun album, but it's this. This is the Farm Spartacus from 1990. Now, a lot of people have a lot of rotten things to say about this record, and I get it. There were sort of baggy also-rans from Liverpool. They were kind of like a Asda Price Happy Mondays or something. But, on that level, it's still a really enjoyable record. It's what you would call basic. It's not a sophisticated album, but at the same time, it's rammed full of hooks and quite memorable songs. And I've got to say, these guys did an amazing thing. This didn't originally come out on a big label. They borrowed 25 grand to make this record themselves. I think they started a label called Product, and they put this thing to #1 just off their own bat, which is totally amazing, and you've got to praise them for that. As I say, it's a bit dumbass, but what it lacks in sophistication, and it makes up for it. It's got a lot of swagger. It's like, I don't fucking care. I'm doing this. I'm saying this. I'm making it. And for that, I'm not going to knock them for that, because, Jesus Christ, I wished I'd thought of doing this in 1990. Fortunately, I didn't, so there you go. Spartacus. Oh, if you're wondering where they got the artwork from, you can't hide that from me. they definitely stole all that from the Clash. And why not? They were huge fans of the Clash, and maybe that's why I let them off with being not incredible. Right, Spartacus by The Farm. Do you know what? I'm going to give this 6, a solid good 6. This is the original copy, the original press, and it came with a free 12-inch single of something called the Farley Mixes, which I'd never played before, but I played last night and they weren't very good. 6. Record number 3. This one is very much not in my wheelhouse, so it's a bit kind of, it's not really fair for me to review it, but I'm going to review it anyway. This is Motorhead. I feel funny even saying that. This is Motorhead. And their album, Another Perfect Day, which is, I believe it's kind of, I've got the date. 1983 this record came out, and the problem here is I don't have much to relate it against. The only other Motorhead album I've ever had is Ace of Spades, and I was a bit on the fence about that as well. This is, it starts really well. The first few songs are really good. They've got big riffs. They're almost memorable. They're, you know, kind of memorable songs. But very quickly, the album kind of descends into what I would call, especially on side 2, a bit of a mush, where things are not really... I can't tell one song from another, and I have listened to it 3 times. On side 2, not side 1. I don't like the artwork. I think it's a bit schoolboy with crayons. I'm going to get shot for that. It's the album that had Brian Robertson. I wrote his name down because I knew I'd never remember it. Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy played guitar on this. That's him there. He was only on one album apparently because nobody liked him. Oh no, sorry, Lemmy didn't like him. He took 15 hours to record a guitar solo and that pissed everyone off. But he was only there for one album. This was it. When the album was over, both him and Filthy Phil Taylor exited the band and did something else, so Lemmy had to start again. So the whole thing is a bit of a disaster. It's probably not something Lemmy would have looked back on fondly. In fact, I know he didn't, and I'm not surprised. If someone was to say to me, "You need to hear Motorhead, they're an amazing band, here, listen to this," I would listen to this and go, To me, it's not up to par. The songs are absolutely forgettable. The production's pretty horrible. The drums just disappear. Apart from the first 3 tracks, which I would say were okay. So I'm going to give this, certain people are going to hate me for this, I'm giving Motorhead Another Perfect Day a 4. Sorry, Robin. Record number 4. Let's go right back to the beginning. This is about as far back as I'll probably ever go in this show. This is from 1957, and it's the very first Buddy Holly album, The Chirping Crickets. It doesn't even name check him on the cover. It's just known as The Chirping Crickets by the Chicklets. The Burping Chick Flips. The Chirping Crickets by the Crickets, Buddy Holly and his Crickets, and there's 4 of them on here. This is kind of it. This is where everything came from. I know Elvis is the big rock and roll guy, I get that, but for me, this is the birth of the self-contained pop group. 4 guys, guitar, bass and drums, who write their own songs, record their own songs, produce their own songs. That had absolutely never, ever, ever been done before. And it was started by these 4 teenagers. I don't think any of them was even 20 when they did this. Just boys, and they basically invented the whole goddamn thing. And it still reverberates down the decades to this day. This is a 64-year-old album. 64 years old. This is an original copy. It's not no fucking coloured vinyl, that's for sure. This is an original copy of this. And it's still as good now and as fresh and exciting as it was then, I think. If I had to choose Elvis or Buddy, I'd choose Buddy every time because, unfortunately, he died in the plane crash, but God knows what he would have done in the 60s. He probably would have got into big flowery shirts in the 70s, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, the Chirping Crickets, the Crickets, the start of everything, still an exciting record, chock full of top pop songs, no doubt about it. 64 years old today. Not today, but in general. This is a 9. Easily a 9. Record number 5 is, well, let's just have it. It's 1980. This is the Revillos and their first album, Rev Up. Now, this is not the Revillos, everyone. Revillos, not the Revillos. There's a big difference between the two. The Revillos were the kind of sort of comedy punk R&B outfit featuring Joe Callis, who went on to join the Human League, Eugene Reynolds, Faith Life. This is still Eugene Reynolds, Faith Life, but it's an entirely different band. Not doing an entirely different thing, but an even more bubblegum version of what they were doing in the Revillos. I love this album. It's got a lot of really good songs. It's a little bit thin on the production, but the aesthetic of the whole thing is really fantastic, and they really went for it. It's got a lot of James Bondy instrumental type moments and all that kind of thing. It's funny to know that the Revillos actually had a longer career and a more successful career than the Revillos. I think they had a couple of hit singles, but somehow the Revillos are still going and playing gigs, and they don't do any Revillos songs in their shows, which I find they should do a couple of, because there's some great things on here. The best tracks are, I love Rev Up, this track. Secret of the Shadows is great. Cool Jerk is also a brilliant track. It's just a really fun record. It does exactly what you want it to do, and this tells you exactly what it's going to do. Rev Up by the Revillos, 1980. This is a strong 7 for me. Strong 7. Record number 6, the last record on the turntable today, is a strange one. This is not something I would ever have kind of gone near at any point in my life. This is the first Duran album, simply called Duran. Now, I remember all this very, very well. It's a very strong memory for me, the whole Duran, Spandau Ballet and that whole thing. I didn't like any of it at all. But I've got to say, at the same time, I never really gave it a chance. I never actually listened to it. I heard the singles, I found them quite nauseating. I do think Duran were better than Spandau Ballet, who were just a bit more nauseating. But I never really listened to a record, so I'm going through stuff and I'm thinking, well, what were the records actually like, apart from the singles? Were they any good, or were they not? I've got to be honest, this is pretty unmemorable stuff. It's quite bland. Let's do the good stuff. On the upside, I would say it's got quite a good sound. The drum sound is pretty decent. The whole thing, it doesn't sound horribly dated, to be honest, and that's down to the fact of it having a good drum sound. The only thing that sounds dated is the guitar playing is a bit Miami Vice, do you know what I mean? And that sounds pretty dated. But song-wise, it is incredibly bland. It's got all the techniques and all the tricks of the day, but Simon Le Bon, he's not a great singer. He always sounded to me like he was struggling to reach those notes, and I really think he was. In fact, when they were recording this album, there was talk of replacing Simon Le Bon with someone who actually can sing. I don't know how history would have played out if they'd done that, but they didn't. But he always sounds like he's a semitone out of his depth to me. Not that he's out of tune, that he's just, struggling to get there. The best track on this is the instrumental called Tel Aviv, simply because it doesn't have... No, that's not fair. Not simply because it doesn't have Simon Le Bon. It's just the best piece of work on the album. Yacht Rock. They used to call this, well, I've heard it referred to by journalists as yacht rock. That's a horrible thing, but it kind of deserves it. I always felt that Duran were probably a bunch of nasty bastards. I did though. I always thought they sounded and looked and acted like a bunch of horrible middle-class twats who would happily bully you, and they're twatting around on a boat, and they're really horrible people. That's based on nothing apart from my own prejudices and having been very badly bullied as a boy by people who looked like they were going to go on and join Duran. So yes, Yacht Rock, I'm not a fan. This isn't terrible, it isn't great, it's totally, ugh. I'm going to give it a 3. 3. Okay, thank you everybody for listening to that diatribe of garbage. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share this video. I know I always say it, but I have to say it. I'm getting 1,200 views and 36 shares. If 1,200 views translated into 600 shares, we'd be getting 10,000 views, and then God knows what would happen there. But yeah, please do share it. It really means the world to me that you do. And thank you so much for watching it. Share well, and you shall be rewarded with the bonus content. Share badly, you shall not be rewarded with the bonus content. Vogue. I'm voguing. Vogue! I'm voguing.